and today we are hanging out in my bathroom so we can replace my bathroom fan. I'm going to walk you through some tips and tricks in replacing the bathroom fan and also making sure that you pick out the right replacement fan. Now there's two main ways that you can test to make sure that your bathroom fan is functioning as intended. The first one, like mine, well, it just straight up doesn't work. So that's an easy way to tell. The other thing you can do is what we call the toilet paper test, and that's to make sure that you're actually getting enough airflow in your bathroom fan to make sure that it is getting rid of the excess moisture in your bathroom. So go ahead and turn your fan on, take a piece of toilet paper, flip it up and make sure that the toilet paper actually stays. If the toilet paper stays, that means that you're getting good airflow and that your vent fan is operating as expected. If the toilet paper falls down or doesn't stick at all, that means that you either have a lot of dirt or your fans just aren't as efficient as they should be and you're not moving enough air. Now there are some important things to think about when actually picking out your replacement fan. If you go to your local hardware store, a lot of times they have them listed out as good, better, and best. Now, their definition of best may not be exactly what you think would be a best replacement. Now, typically, they think that quieter is better. But if you're anything like my wife, you may disagree because you might not want anyone hearing when you're doing your business on the toilet, or certainly you don't want to hear anyone else doing their business on the toilet. So sometimes quieter isn't always better. Now, besides the actual size of the fan, which would make your life easier if you can get an exact drop-in replacement, there are two main things that you want to look out for when looking for a replacement fan. Now, the first factor is airflow, and that's typically measured in CFM or cubic feet a minute. And that's simply a measure of how much air that a fan can move out of your bathroom per minute. In a normal bathroom that has just the half bath, a toilet, the amount of air that it moves out isn't that big of a deal. Yes, it's nice to evacuate any possible smells, but the key thing is just getting that circulation going. Now, in something like a bathroom with a shower, where there's going to be a lot more humidity, it's very important to try and get as much airflow as possible. This is important to reduce the amount of humidity that you have in your bathroom, which can lead to mold or, for extended periods of time, even structural issues if you leave too much moisture in your bathroom. Now, the other factor is noise, and that's measured in zones for bathroom fans. So just to put it into perspective a little bit, one zone is about equal to the sound that your refrigerator makes when it's running. Well, 4 zones is about the same as the vent fan that you have above your stove. So that'll be a good point of reference when picking out your bathroom fan, whereabout you want to be. Now for some, you may want your fan to be quieter. You might not want to hear that rumble while it's running. But for others, as mentioned earlier, you may want the extra noise to kind of act as a buffer to keep things quieter on the outside. Now in terms of airflow, like I said earlier, it's really important to make sure that you have a lot of good airflow to keep down the moisture so you don't get mold or structural damage. Now, one main recommendation is to actually keep your fan running for an extra 20 minutes after you're done with your shower. And that's to make sure that all of the humid air gets sucked out of the fan and doesn't stay in your bathroom. Now, one thing you can do is just turn your bathroom fan on, let it go, remember to come back after 20 minutes or so to turn the switch off. The other thing you can do is even put a timer switch on, but one of the easiest things that I like to do is with a humidity sensor switch like I have here. So be sure to subscribe because we're going to be coming out with another video that shows you how to install one of these and how simple it is coming up soon. So because of those two factors, I ended up choosing a fan that had a little more airflow than the one it was replacing, just to make sure that the bathroom doesn't stay humid, but also one that was relatively loud so that what happens in the bathroom stays in the bathroom. So before we get started, do yourself a favor, get a vacuum and clean out your vent fan. There is going to be a ton of dust and dirt in there, and the last thing you want to be dealing with is trying to take everything down and having dirt fall on your face. So grab a vacuum, grab the extension, and just do a quick cleanup of that. You'll thank me later. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is actually pull down the top cover and take the top cover off and vacuum behind there, again, just to make sure that we're not going to be dealing with any dust that's going to be in our face. So the first thing you'll want to do is actually pull down on both sides, and it should pop down a little bit. Now the key thing is there's going to be these 2 little clips on either side, and what you need to do is squeeze these 2 pieces together and then pull it down. Now, just so you can see how these clips actually work, there's a little channel, and these essentially sit like this. And what you do is you squeeze these and pull them down out of the channel. So you want to do that on both sides, is squeeze them together, and then you'll be able to pull this lid down. And we'll be left with a very dirty vent fan. Now, we are going to want to vacuum out the inside of that vent fan a little bit just to make things easier for us, but first and foremost, as with anything electrical, turn off the power to the vent fan. Now, yes, it's on a switch, and yes, the switch can be off and you won't have any electricity at the actual fan, but anyone, whether it's you, a family member, a kid, anyone can bump that switch, send electricity up to the fan, and you're gonna have a bad time. So make sure you go to your electrical panel, turn off the breaker that has to do with the fan, grab an electrical tester if you have one, and double check to make sure that there is no electricity, no power to the switch or to the fan before we go any further. So now that you have the electrical turned off, let's just double check and make sure. Yep, no power there. So now I'm gonna go ahead and vacuum all that stuff out just to make our lives a little easier. Now, another good thing to prepare for if you have access is to go ahead and hop up in your attic and try and clear away any insulation that may be around the vent fan. Otherwise, when you take the fan out, you may have some insulation and debris that falls down on you. Not the end of the world, just makes things a little bit cleaner and easier to deal with. So if you can, go ahead and go up now. Now's a good time to clear away any of the insulation from around the fan. Alright, so once you've located the fan, go ahead and clear away any of the insulation around it. This is just to help keep things a little tidier while we're working on it. Alright, so now that we kind of have better access here, go ahead and take a look, and usually there are some fasteners on the side here. These ones are nails, so I'm got my crowbar, I'm going to take those out. But these are the fasteners that are typically added on new installations. So if we didn't have access to the attic, then we would end up trying to get a Sawzall in behind, when we were in the bathroom, get a Sawzall to cut behind the screw or the nail and remove them that way. But since we have access to the attic, let's make our lives a little bit easier, and we'll just remove these nails right now. Now when we go to install the new fan, we won't have to worry about putting stuff in here. There's a way that you can secure the new fan on the inside without having to come up in the attic to do this. So, all right, let's go ahead and remove these. Awesome. All right. Now that we got those squared away, let's go ahead and go back downstairs. Well, now that we have all the insulation removed around the fan, and we have the nails that were holding it in place removed, let's go ahead and start disassembly. First, we're gonna go ahead and unplug. And right behind this, at least on this one, there's one little Phillips screw. That should be about all there is. Sometimes there's little clips, but basically this fan, this half of this enclosure, kind of detaches and removes, leaving just that metal shell that was in there before. So let's go ahead and remove this one right here. Despite my best efforts, there was still some dust and dirt that fell down when I took the fan off, but definitely better than if I hadn't vacuumed. Now take a look. Yep, that's exactly why we like to vacuum all the dust off before taking it down. Now that we have the fan assembly removed, we're going to want to disconnect the electrical. Good idea to double check and just make sure we don't have any electricity right here. So let's go ahead and take these down and disconnect the electrical. Now that we have the electrical disconnected, not forgetting the ground, we can go ahead and try and maneuver this entire assembly back down. Now remember, there were those tabs that were on either side that will probably get in the way when you're trying to bring this down, so you might have to push it up and kind of tilt it in order to pull it all the way down. If you didn't have attic access, what you'd want to do is try and find out where the stud is. So on this side, so you would find the stud, realizing that the fasteners are probably over on here. Take your Sawzall between these, and you might even be able to take a flashlight up there and see. But you just take the Sawzall and kind of cut through where that screw or nail would be on either side of here. And that would work out just as well if you didn't have attic access, or if you didn't feel like going up into your attic to remove them. All right, public service announcement time. Take advantage of my mistakes. Make sure when you are removing the fasteners up in the attic that you double check that you got every single one. And you're not like me where you thought there were only two, you fiddle around down here realizing that you have to go back into the attic because there was a third fastener that you didn't see. So learn from my mistakes. Make sure that you double check all around that you get every single screw or nail removed before coming back out of the attic. Okay, so now let's try and get that thing removed. And that's what happens when you try to go too fast and you don't feel like going back up in the attic to try and get the last nail. So, well, live and learn. Now I'm gonna have to patch that up, but at least we have the old one completely unsecured now. We can go ahead and pull it down. Now to prep for electrical, double check your installation manual, but on mine, this piece here pops up and gives access to where the actual wires are gonna come in. So we know we can deal with this after. We'll go ahead and set that aside. So the wire is gonna be coming in here instead of on the side on mine, but we can leave that until after. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna hook up the existing hose to the new housing here and get it all ready to actually put this into the ceiling. All right, now that you have everything kind of in place, here's where I was talking about if it's an existing installation, you don't necessarily have to secure on either side. At least in my case, there's these little arrows pointing to these little divots. That's where we're actually gonna screw into the stud here instead of having to go back up into the attic to do that. So let's go ahead and do that now. Now, looking at the old fan next to the new fan, you can see a couple little differences. I mean, for the most part, they're pretty similar, which makes sense because, you know, if a design works, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But you can see the motor definitely is a little bit bigger, and that probably helps with the airflow on the new one. But also, you can see the fan design on the old versus the new has definitely come a long way, a lot more advanced. This is probably where you're gonna get most of the airflows from this new fan design. All right, next step, we're gonna go ahead and get the electrical hooked up. Now, previously, these wire nuts were used, which work out pretty well. They're cheap, they're easy, but if you haven't had a chance to invest in some of these quick connectors, now would be a good time. I highly suggest it. So while the wing nuts do work and function well, these connections are definitely superior, especially when you're trying to combine solid wire like our house wire is and stranded wire like we have here. So to get the motor and fan assembly attached, there are these two tabs here that it went into, and then it rocked up and clipped into this tab here. Go ahead and make sure you plug in the electrical connector and make sure that everything is nice and flush. So now that we have everything installed, double check that everything is plugged in, connected, taped, all that good stuff, let's go ahead and turn the power on and make sure that everything works. And if everything is working good, then we can go back into the attic, put all that insulation back around and make sure that everything looks good up there and clean up, because despite my best efforts, there's still quite a bit of mess on the floor, so we're gonna have to get all that cleaned up. But first, let's go ahead and turn the power back on and make sure that everything works. All right, moment of truth. Hey, perfect. Now, putting the fan shroud back on is the same as the old one. You have these two clips here that we squeeze, and we fit them into that little channel right there, doing both at the same time. So let's go ahead and do that. As always, thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you like the video. Be sure to stay subscribed so that you can see our next video about replacing a normal fan switch with a humidity controlled fan switch, which is going to make this whole project a lot better. Also, let me know in the comments below if you have any other suggestions or if you want to see a project done. Until next time, thanks for watching. I have a lot to clean up. We'll see you later.